From Foreman's need for money to support his family, to Mike Tyson's revelations during a psychedelic experience, let's take a look at the real reason why these boxers came out of retirement, starting with the return of the People's Champion. When this legendary boxer first started training at the age of 12 under the supervision of a police officer and boxing coach Joe E. Martin, no one would have imagined that he would go on to be hailed as the greatest, or win the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship 3 times. By the end of 1963, Ali had a career you could only dream of, and a record of 15 wins, one by knockout, and a 19-0 score. The iconic boxer enjoyed a very successful career in his 20s, so it came as a surprise when he first mentioned retirement plans after his third fight with Joe Frazier in the 70s. He had achieved all there was to achieve, and his health was declining. The greatest wanted to take some time off and focus on his faith, but he didn't officially retire until 1976, when he fought Ken Norton for the third time and defeated him. It seemed as if Ali's boxing days had come to an end, but this guy had been boxing since the age of 12. It was his first love. Now, we all know how hard it is to let go of your first love, and so Ali made a return to boxing the subsequent year and beat Alfredo Evangelista. But what motivated him to come back? 2 reasons: money and pride. Ali wanted to prove that he was still the greatest and needed some extra funding for his political cause, so he continued to fight even against the advice of his doctors. His health declined to the point that he developed Parkinson's disease. It was only after that Ali retired for good in 1981 after his fight in Nassau, Bahamas against Trevor Berbick, only because all other places refused to grant him a license due to his deteriorating health. It was clearly really hard getting him to retire, and he's not the only one. The next boxer on this list also had the same struggle. Let's talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr. and his great return. The man is regarded as one of the most successful and controversial boxers of all time. He competed professionally from 1997 to 2015 before retiring after defeating Andre Berto. He decided to come back to take up Conor McGregor in 2017. But this is also the year when he decided to retire from professional boxing and only take up exhibition matches. He had a daunting record of 50-0 with 27 KO wins. It was clear that he had established himself as a legendary fighter. In his own words, his reason for continuing boxing was currency over legacy. In essence, he wanted to keep making money. And hey, that makes sense, because his fight with Conor alone won him a guaranteed $100 million. Why would anyone want to lose out on that kind of money? He also fought young boxers like Logan Paul, and he made these fights increasingly entertaining to watch. It turns out part of the reason he returned was to entertain his fans. Money and entertainment were his reasons. But not everyone's reason for returning was as clear-cut. You'll see what I mean when we move on to the next one on our list: Mike Tyson and the psychedelic toad. The former heavyweight champion made his comeback to the ring in 2020 for an exhibition fight against Roy Jones Jr., and after 8 rounds of boxing, the bout was declared a draw. Even at the ripe old age of 54, Tyson had the physique and the brain of a fighter in his prime. He had first retired in 2005 after losing a match to Kevin McBride. Back then, he was struggling with money, drugs, and some personal family issues. Taking a step away from the ring proved to be good for him, prioritizing his mental and physical health. Mike soon made his way into the film industry and even launched his own cannabis business. All this has probably got you wondering, why come back then? Well, apparently a toad told him, "You gotta do this." And that lit up a fire inside of him to compete once again. Oh, and when I say toad, I mean toad venom, a psychedelic rich in DMT. A psychedelic experience literally brought our movie star back into the ring. That and the desire desire to prove that age is just a number. Not everyone's reasons were this exciting. Some had more charitable reasons to return. For example, George Foreman. This former heavyweight champion retired in 1977 after losing to Jimmy Young. He became a born-again Christian and an ordained minister and decided to focus on his faith and his family. He seemed to have left boxing behind for good. But Foreman surprised the world by returning for a fight with Steve Zosky 10 years after he left the ring. A lot of people thought he would lose weight, but Foreman had gained quite some weight. But for him, the return was important. He needed the money to support his family and finance his church. It's clear that he had a pretty altruistic reason for making his comeback, and this went hand in hand with his desire to defy the idea that a boxer dies at the age of 40. Foreman also set a goal to become a heavyweight champion again, and looks like his faith really helped him overcome all the odds, because he ended up winning the prestigious title again in 1995 at the age of 45, making him the oldest heavyweight champion of all time. Darn! It looks like the comeback really paid off, but other comebacks were far more disputed, like Evander Holyfield. This guy was boxing's only 4-time heavyweight champion. He was at the extreme height of his career. He had already fought some of the best heavyweights of his era, like Lennox Lewis, Vitaly Klitschko, Michael Moorer, and George Foreman. Evander Holyfield announced his retirement in 2011 when he was defeated by Brian Nielsen via 10th round TKO. While most thought Holyfield was gone for good, he chose to return to the ring at the age of 58 back in 2021. He was inspired by a drive to claim Foreman's title as the oldest heavyweight champ. But not all dreams come true, and Holyfield learned this the hard way. His comeback match with martial arts star Vitor Belfort proved to be a disaster, losing via knockout. It was clear that his glory days were behind him, and he couldn't secure a win. But hey, let's not end this on a sad note. The last boxer on my list had a better run. I'm talking about Sugar Ray Leonard. Leonard won championships in 5 weight classes and earned more than $100 million in his career. He was hailed as the most celebrated fighter since Muhammad Ali. Sugar retired in 1982 after undergoing surgery to repair a detached retina in his left eye. He had already achieved fame by winning Olympic gold in 1976 and beating some of the best fighters of his generation. Amongst them were Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, and Wilfred Benitez. But yet, he still yearned for more. Boredom and desire to seek thrill is what brought him back. But after his comeback fight with Kevin Howard in 1984, he realized he didn't have what it took to keep on competing in the same way. He wanted to save himself from future embarrassment in the future. But then in 1987, he made a comeback again to fight Marvin Hagler. This was perhaps one of the most disputed fights of his career, but he emerged victorious and soon decided to retire once more, making a few more surprise comeback appearances before retiring for good in 1991. And that's all I know about the real reasons why these boxers came out of retirement.